Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. So, for today, I want to take a break from my usual style of videos and instead go into a bit of Anchor Bay's recent history and honestly downfall and why I started making videos because of that. This video will be more personal and explanatory because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation and confusion out there. People thinking I'm some social justice warrior, people thinking I'm just ranting, or people thinking I saw one bad thing Anchor Bay did, like the phone ban. It pushed me over the edge. No, none of that is true. Allow me to clarify some things. By the way, if you've seen that first 15-minute video I made, there might be some repeated sentiments. So I've been going to Anchor Bay pretty much my whole life since 3-year preschool. And overall, I think Anchor Bay is a really good school district. They're well funded. They unite people from different areas. They're constantly focused on the future. They care about students, parents, and especially teachers. And they're constantly expanding and bettering themselves. And I know I had videos back in middle school, if you remember that, were there for that about school, but it was like class rankings, month rankings, field trip rankings, irrelevant stuff like that. I had one about actual school decisions that they made, like school decisions from elementary, middle school, and it was terrible. Like, why would I want to go back to it? It's not like, oh my god, it's senior year, I want to go back to the good old days. No, those videos were terrible. Why would I want to go back to that unless it was to say something worthwhile? I'm a senior right now, and honestly, I think my freshman and sophomore years of high school, 2022, 2023, and 2023 to 2024, were the best I've seen of Anchor Bay. Now, yeah, a principal got removed. There was a Halloween pep assembly they never did again. Maybe a dance or two got canceled. But overall, like, there was hype about things. They made good decisions. They weren't overbearing or authoritarian. And there was even hope in 2023, 2024 when they brought hats back and there was hope with a new principal. And the hats back, that showed that, okay, they can actually bring positive change. However, the last year, really year and a half, I think Anchor Bay is, for lack of a better term, okay, they've lost the plot. They've really went off the rails. The first red flag was sometime middle last year when they switched up the format in middle schools. Now, I know I complained about this in my first video if you saw that, but the actual switching wasn't that big of a deal. However, they communicated poorly and people freaked out. But hey, that's just one issue a year and a half ago. It doesn't even affect me. Well, then last November, of course, we had a teen suicide. Now, I'm not going to say their name, obviously, but I feel the school handled their death poorly. Just one 10-minute speech from the principal and then saying, hey, talk to your counselors. That was it from the school. And that's lackluster. I get it. It's a tough situation. What do you do? But this should have been the time for the leadership to step up and show they care, and they're going to take steps just never happen again. But no, instead, the principal gave one speech I don't remember, and then it happened 6 months later, and they gave an email. But hey, I'm jumping ahead there. That was a bad sign. Not the death itself. That stuff's tragic, but it happens. I get it. The lackluster response was concerning. But in between that, we had they redid parts of the school like the bathrooms. I get it. That was bond money, but it didn't really do anything, and they kind of overhyped it. And then we get to the spring, and they had trimesters and the phone ban. Sorry, phone ban, because I have less to say. Yeah, idea wasn't bad. I'm repeating fails. Idea wasn't bad, but it should have been announced earlier. Should have been a slower transition, and exceptions probably should have been made even when it was fully implemented. This was just announced on a flyer on a random Friday in March. No music, no fanfare, no nothing. Just lame reasons. Moving on to trimesters. I know it doesn't. This didn't even get a flyer, by the way. I know it doesn't sound like that big of a deal to switch the school from 2 into 3, but it really is. They've had to switch the rules for exams, have had to move, cut, or change classes, remove or add ones, merge them together, switch up the AP system. This one change, which, yeah, on paper doesn't sound like a lot, just semesters, trimesters, has changed so much stuff, and none of it was explained or affected. So none of it was explained or uh, communicated well. So from this, you can kind of see where the school started lost their way. They started to change stuff way too fast. They kind of got cocky, out of touch, and it just felt like Anchor Bay was on a bit of a decline. Now let's talk about me. So midsummer 2025, I was just doom scrolling on the Anchor Bay social media, and I realized like, wow, they're really changing a lot of stuff that I have problems with. They suck at communicating, and frankly, they seem out of touch. So that made me think of all the poor decisions they had made up until that point. And I was like, wow, someone's got to do something because they're really on the wrong track. So in my mind, I started thinking, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? And eventually I settled on, okay, I think making YouTube videos is seriously my best bet. This was like midsummer. This was like mid July 2025. So I was kind of procrastinating the first video, like a little, like 2 weeks before school starts. Like, oh, do I really want to do this? What if this hurts me? What if it isn't well received? Like, needless to say, I had doubts about the first video and wasn't enthused. I went into the first day and a half of school. Oh, maybe this isn't that bad. I'm only here 3 hours. You know, phone ban doesn't seem to be that horrible. We'll see. And then we had those class meetings, and it was the same reused PowerPoints, the same slides, the same stories, same lame thing. All of it was just terrible. And they even added stuff with the you focus on snaps for 10 minutes. Any doubts I had about those first videos, crushed in those meetings. And then a week later, I uploaded the first video, and well, the rest is still unwritten. So overall, I hope this video gave you some perspective and a bit of an insight into Anchorbay's recent decline, as well as my own thoughts and feelings. Basically, these videos didn't happen overnight. They were a calculated result of technically a year and a half of bad decision making and poor leadership. Honestly, the school should have seen some pushback coming in some way. If you have any questions or want me to clarify anything, you can post a comment or shoot me a message and I'll explain. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an amazing Christmas and Christmas break. Here's to 2026.